everyone. Let me just get this video set up. It's so awesome to see everyone here. Welcome to our Zoom open house, to my Zoom open house. Let me just turn down the music. I hope everyone is doing well. It's quite a wild time in the world right now. So to come together in any way, shape, or form is in a spirit of healing and community is definitely what I need. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I'm so here for it. And I love that you guys are too. And so this is an opportunity. There are at least half the people here right now are in my current group and have been in many prior groups, which is so awesome because I hope you guys will feel free to share your experiences if you feel called in any way. But this is really an opportunity for anyone who's interested in working with me in group settings or individual to get a better sense of what happens in our group experience and what is involved, to ask any questions that you have. This is really a Q&A. I don't have a lecture prepared. I just want to give you the opportunity to ask any questions. This is not a coaching call, so there's not going to be coaching on this call. This is to get your answers, your questions answered, and to help you kind of get a better sense of whether this might be for you. One thing I do want to make clear, and I see that some people here have signed up but are brand new to group as well, which is so awesome because I think it will be great for your nervous system to have a better sense of what to expect. One of the things that's relatively newer over the past year is that if you want to do individual work with me, I require that you be in the group as well. And why is that? That is because I believe that it creates such an essential foundation to moving even further in that individual work. I couldn't possibly probably do enough individual sessions with you to replicate the amount of material and tools and strategies we cover in group. And it would also rob you of the community experience and the connections for healing, which I believe are so vital to this process of growth. And I don't believe that any of us should walk through this alone. And I've come to believe actually that we can't do that successfully alone. Because again, if we're just trying to do things on our own, we are trying to solve the problem from the same level it was created for the most part. So we need new ideas, new energy, new people to get that change. If we keep doing the same things, we get the same results. Typically, if we start doing different things, we start to get different results. And that's kind of my little intro to this. So I'd love for people to just raise your hand under the reactions button. There's a raise hand sign, and we'll just get started. And please feel free to ask any questions you have about group or to share anything that you want to share. Yes, Leslie.
I was wondering, is there like a cap on the number of participants? And if so, what is that number?
Yes, and it depends on, there's 4 different tracks, so there's different number caps on each track. I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but there are only a certain number of individual clients I can take. There are only a certain number of people I can support and enhance support. The group usually runs about 40 people plus or minus, but it could be a little slightly bigger, it could be slightly smaller. It always depends. The amazing thing about this particular group at this time of year is it takes us all the way through the holiday season, which is always challenging and problematic for most people who struggle with their eating. So there's a lot of extra energy that goes into that. I met with our group on Thanksgiving Day last year. I'm not promising that this year, but I go the extra mile to support everyone through these really the most challenging times of year in particular. And it helps us kind of move into the new year with a whole different mindset. I'm not for the quick fix. So if you're looking for a quick fix, you're not in the right place. What I am for is creating sustainable habits that will create change that lasts so that you don't have to stay on that hamster wheel covering the same ground again and again and again and wondering why things aren't working. And part of this is understanding the psychology of change more, which I do a lot of work to try to educate the group on the whys of what I'm suggesting and help to kind of create more understanding of the basics of psychology and behavior change so that you can understand the process that you're navigating better. Because I think we are quick to throw in the towel, especially when we don't understand the whys of what we're doing or what our expected trajectory might be. So I do think that that's helpful as well. So I hope that helped, Elsie. And also, if you want to be, you get placed in a smaller pot, what I call pods. These are groups of like 4 to 6 people, of people who want to get together and meet outside of group. We meet as a group at least 3 Mondays of every month, and that 4th Monday is preserved for pods to meet with each other if they would like. Again, it's not a requirement to be in a small group, but it is my strong encouragement and suggestion to do so. And over the years, some pods have been more active than others. Some have done book clubs with each other. Some have done mastermind group type situations. If you're a Bright Line Eater, there have been many different variations and permutations of this. We have a app, we use Slack, we don't use Facebook, we don't have a Facebook group, we have a Slack group, which I love because it's not on Facebook, so we don't fall into that deep dark hole that we can get into there spending hours, and it really does provide an opportunity for us to support and check in with each other and stay accountable between sessions, which I think is really valuable. And you can have your notifications on, you can have your notifications off. One of our group members said she loved it. Even if she couldn't look at the notification as it came in, she had an Apple Watch and she would get like a vibration on her wrist when someone posted something in Slack, and she called them pings of support, which I think is so beautiful, because that's like when you just know that there's a message for you waiting there that's going to be relevant to something that you care about, or it's an opportunity to get support or give support. It just helps us stay focused and stay on track with our goals, I have found. What other questions do people have? Yes, Leslie.
Apparently I have all the questions.
That's
good. So in a group setting of 40 people on a Zoom, I went through the orientation and such, and it sounds like you kind of go around and talk to, and I totally understand that, not everybody would get coaching on each call. And that, I've learned so much just by listening to the BLE, Fidline calls. So I completely agree with that. But if you do have a question, do you have an opportunity in that group to, how does that work?
You absolutely do. And those of you who are presently in group can share your experience. Anna's in the chat right now saying yes. So first of all, usually half the people come live and half the people don't, because every session is recorded. The first session, we do more of a kind of like round robin people sharings. If you watched the orientation already, Leslie, that's probably what you were referring to. But when it comes to coaching questions, usually everyone in the group does not have a question each week. And we have literally in this entire 6-month session never left a single question unanswered. The only questions that are left unanswered are the ones that are not asked. So even if we're like running really late and there are still hands up, I keep going. And I also offer the opportunity for what we call burning desires. So those are questions like, let's say for some reason, 20 people had a question in a given week and we just couldn't get to it. Some of the questions can wait till the following week, which again, we haven't had to do that this session. But if something is very vital that someone needs feedback on right away, that's what burning desires are for. And you will always get your question answered, because that's a benefit of being in this group, is getting hopefully the questions answered as you need them answered. But it is always a concern. People are like, well, how many people? Like, there's this scarcity mentality that I think we all are raised with on some level, that we have to undo, that somehow there's not going to be enough for us, especially if there are more people. I find the larger the group, the more productive it is, because the more possibility there is to find other people in the group who have similar challenges to you, that you connect with their coaching questions, maybe more than some others. So the more people we have, the better. And I also call this borrowing the benefits. When one person is being coached, in this particular setting, everyone is being coached, and we borrow the benefits of this other person's coaching. So it ends up, oftentimes people will raise their hand for coaching. Then by the time it's their turn to talk, they're like, well, it was already all covered by Anna and Robin and Kathy and Susan and Kamai and Wanda, right? Like, it's like, that's how it is. So great question, but I think you will feel hopefully really well taken care of. That is my goal. And my goal is always to surpass your expectations of your experience. And I want to hear from you if it's not going well. I want to know that, so that we can support you in getting your needs met. Okay. It's really important to me.
So my question, you've totally answered my question. And I think ultimately both of my questions are coming from a place of, I know you can sign up for the coaching, and then you can also sign up for individual. And I was just trying to discern where I would land for that. So I think you've answered that though.
Okay. So individual is for really like focus, deeper work, and more, I would say, consistency and follow up. And when you do the individual sessions with me, you also have Slack access with me between sessions, which means we DM throughout the week, and I can support you in situations as they come up and arise. So that's another aspect of that. Awesome, Leslie. Thank you for being here. Don't be shy. If other questions come up as you listen, please raise your hand. That's why I'm here. That's why we're doing this, so that people can really feel comfortable with whatever choices they make. Beth?
Yeah, hi. A couple of questions. Someone mentioned an orientation video. Is there someplace I can find that so I don't ask repeat questions here?
The orientation, once you've signed up for group, you get.
Oh, okay. So
okay. And let me just pause for a second, because this is a great opportunity to show you, like, what am I talking about when I mention your portal, and where are you going to find those recordings, and what do they look like? I would love to just briefly, if you don't mind, a quick pause.
Yeah, that's fine. I guess I was looking for more information to see if I wanted to sign up. So I guess that won't work for that. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And what's your other question?
Yeah. Do you have anywhere on your website, or can you share now a definition of like restrictive or binge eating? So if you follow Bright Line Eating, that's not considered restriction in the sense that you're talking about it, or
no, like binge eating is eating large amounts of food in one sitting. For most people, there are different types of binge episodes. There are subjective binge episodes, and there are objective binge episodes. So subjective episodes are the person feels like they've eaten a large amount of food, but other people might say that's just a normal amount. But this person felt it was a large amount. And objective binge episodes, like 9 out of 10 people hearing a list of the amount a person had eaten in one sitting would agree that this is an unusually large amount of food to eat at one time. So that's at the first element of describing binge eating. Then it is always accompanied by loss of control. Whether it's a subjective or objective binge episode, it is accompanied by loss of control. That is what distinguishes it from, let's say, garden variety overeating, because many people overeat, but they don't feel a loss of control when they're choosing it. And that loss of control is likened to, let's say you imagine a ball rolling down a hill. As it's rolling further and further down the hill, it's gathering momentum. such to the point, like, no matter how fast a runner you are, you would never catch that ball. That's the sensation of loss of control that people feel with their eating. So if people have binge episodes, that's what that means. Restrictive eating is a more general term, right? Restrictive eating disorders run a whole variety, all the way from anorexia nervosa at the most extreme form. And this group is not the place for treatment of severe anorexia nervosa. And that there's a whole, I don't know if you saw the FAQs, the frequently asked questions on the registration page, that starts to cover some of that. But there's a whole spectrum of restrictive eating in between. And usually binge eating is often countered by many people with restriction, meaning under eating, not eating even a minimum amount of food to keep your body going, or maybe slightly under eating all the time, such that it's creating an environment that makes you actually susceptible to binging, because your body wants to survive no matter what. And if it's feeling like it's in a starvation state, it will trigger the urge to binge. And that's some of the mechanism at play there. Does that help, Beth, in your questions?
I think so, yes. I mean, I've listened to some of your coaching calls from Bright Line Eating, so I think I understand. Yeah, okay.
And Bright Line Eating in and of itself is not what I consider restriction as far as an eating disorder goes, okay. Right? Abstinence is different from restriction.
Okay, great.
Abstinence, right, is choosing to not partake in a certain substance, whether it's an alcohol, whether it's drugs, whether it's sugar, whether it's flour, whether it's gluten. Abstinence is a choice to abstain from a certain substance because it is toxic to us. But within that framework, as it comes to food, we still have to make sure that we are adequately fueling ourselves. It's not about abstinence from all foods. It's about abstinence from things that are truly toxic for us. And for many people who suffer from food addiction, sugar and flour need to be treated as if they are an allergy, because they are, because their bodies are bodies. Anyone who suffers from sensitivity to flour and sugar, your body will respond differently to those substances than, you know, a regular person on the street who does not struggle with their eating in that way. Any other questions, Beth?
Nope, I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. And I'm going to try to do this screen share now. My browser is being a little bit cranky, but I think I've got it here. So let me just figure this out on Zoom. Have a moment. Just there we go. Now we're going to do, and I just want to show those of you who want to see, this is our portal. So this is on a platform called Teachable, and it houses all the materials for the group, from, you know, the welcome video and welcome letter to progress trackers you can use, the orientation video, that's for people who have signed up. It's a preview. Every orientation is slightly different, but I wanted people to have the opportunity, especially, you know, being new, for example, to understand like what to expect and to feel like you're already up to date. And also I have usually about half the group is returning from previous groups, and I'll speak more to that in a second. And I don't want to take too much time out of each session kind of repeating ground that people have already covered. And so this allows people to really get up to speed quickly. And then all the group sessions are here, and they are on video. And this is what it looks like. You'll see I press play, and this will be the video from the week session. And then there will be, you know, if there's a special meditation that we did, that might be in a special file, hopefully. And then there are notes from each session telling you and showing you what we covered that week, so that you have a basic understanding of that. And so speaking to this idea of repetition, for those of you who are returning, which I am so incredibly grateful for, I really do see this process as the peeling of an onion. The longer and the more consistently that we work together, the deeper we can go, the greater amount of progress we can make, the deeper our healing. The other thing is that repetition is actually essential to changing our brains. if we have been doing things in a certain way for many years, often maybe even decades, it's going to require a lot of repetition and consistency to reprogram both our thinking and our behaviors. So the best possible thing is to have repetition, and we hear things and experiencing things differently at two different time points in our lives based on what we have experienced thus far and then where we are in that new moment later on. So we can hear the same thing, we can hear the same words, I should say, two different times and have a totally different understanding of what that word or concept means based on where we are in our experience in that moment. So I hope that that helps as well. And I call it a conversation of recovery. Why? Because that's how we stay in, that's how we find recovery, and that's how we stay in it, by being in dialogue with similarly minded people who have similar goals and similar priorities, because the world wants to distract us and lead us usually to behaviors that ultimately don't work for us or won't be good for us, right? And there are billions of dollars of marketing everywhere getting us to not take care of ourselves in many ways. And so staying in this dialogue allows us to keep our focus and to have kind of like a home to come back to of like-minded people who understand us. Anna, yes.
Hi. So
Hi.
I don't have a question. I'm just here to share my experience with anybody who's on the call and thinking about joining. I'm in the current group. I started last May, and it has just been a completely transformative experience for me. I really can't say enough about how much better my life is for having done this, and how incredible Dr. Joy has been to work with, and how incredible the group is. I mean, it is such an incredibly supportive group of people. It's been an incredible experience. And if you're on the fence, go for it. It's a really amazing and special thing. I feel so fortunate to have found it.
Oh, Anna, thank you so much. And it has been such a joy. It's a joy to work with each and every one of you. But if you could see, Anna's given me permission to share at some point her before and after photos, where she was in May and where she is now. And she has not had an easy path. She's a young widow coming out of that, and like a whole journey that if you just look at the pictures, you might think, oh, well, she has it easy, right? We have these stories that we tell ourselves about why things will work for other people and not for us, or why they're different for us, or they have it easier than we have. We have all these stories, and part of the journey that we go through together in group is we learn to rewrite those stories that we have. We learn to identify, uproot, and discard any limiting beliefs that we may have. And sometimes we have to do this again and again and again. But when you show up here ready and willing, truly the sky is the limit. And Anna, you have just been such an amazing example of that. And sometimes we show up here and we meet with resistance that we didn't expect. And that has been the experience also of group members. And that's okay, because change is a process. It is not a one-time event, and everyone comes in with different baggage, different challenges, different struggles. And so the goal is for me and the group to meet each person where you are and to figure out a plan that works for you. And that's going to look a little different for each person. Awesome. Thank you. Anyone else want to share or ask a question? I've showed you the portal. I can show you our Slack, which, let me just find something relatively. We have Robin here on our YouTube, and she's awesome about recognizing everyone's birthdays, because we have a phone list for the group. So that's another, again, it's not a requirement, but it's a strong suggestion to start to connect with people offline so that you can be in touch with each other and have support when you need it. And that's part and parcel of that. This is our Slack group. This is where we post messages to each other to see, is it someone's birthday? And this is Anna's before and after. I hope you can see it. That's last May at her first Taylor Swift concert, and this is October at concert number 2. And so, you know, I hope you don't mind my sharing it, Anna, but a picture is worth 1,000 words. And you know, the truth is if Anna had quit the day after the first concert, she never would have had this after picture. And that's the key when I talk about consistency and patience. You know, so many times we think nothing's working because we can't see the result yet. And this is the pivotal moment when we need to dig in deeper and show up and trust the process. Because again, if we don't have that patience and consistency, we never get to the transformation, right? We give up before it has a chance to work. And that's where that expression of like, don't give up before the miracle happens. That picture shows it to me. Those 2 pictures show them in a just 1,000%. Yes, Anna.
So when we talked about sharing those pictures, and we talked about, were you going to just show the body or were you going to crop? And you, of course, very generously offered to not show my face in case I wanted the privacy. But that didn't feel right to me because honestly, the transformation I feel best about from one picture to the next is what happened up here, you know, like cropping my head off. Like that's the real change. Like, yeah, I lost almost 45 pounds and that's awesome. And I'm happy about it. Don't get me wrong. But even if I hadn't, like, I feel so much better. Like my spirit feels better. And that's so much more important. And I think that's why I was able to lose the weight. Like it wasn't really about the weight. Like as I felt better, it was easy to do the things that I needed to do to lose the weight. Like that wasn't even the point, you know, which I've lost weight a lot of times and I've never, ever had that feeling before of being focused on the right things and how easy it got when I was focused on the right stuff. And that is 1,000% you. So thank you.
Thank you, Anna. And this is a perfect segue. And then Kathy, I saw your hand up. Are you still here? There you are. And we'll get right to your question, Kathy. When I talk about this a lot, but this is what Anna was talking about was a result of that. We work on multiple levels in this group. We work on the conscious level, our thinking, the thoughts that we're aware of. We work on the subconscious level, and we work on the energetic level. And the subconscious and energetic levels are missed from most traditional food programs, eating disordered programs, weight loss programs, health behavior change programs. People don't address that. I know of no program like this that addresses all 3 in this particular area of health behavior change. And that's when Anna's talking about that inner transformation. We're working not just on what we think, but our entire energy. And I teach you, it's one of my missions to teach you how to manage your energy, how to control and change your energy. We talk a lot about your presence is your power, and you can have an incredible presence at 120 pounds, at 200 pounds, at 150 pounds, at any, it's not actually about your body. People so much collapse how they present themselves in the world with whatever weight or shape that they happen to be in the moment. But it is my belief that before any of that to change, for it to work and for it to last long term, we need to uproot and change subconscious beliefs that are holding us back and to shift our energy. And we can start to feel that energy and the power and the energy of transformation from day one. We don't wait till that after shot to feel the transformation. We feel it from day one. And I teach you how to cultivate that in and of yourself. Kathy, you're muted, Kathy, so sorry.
unmute? Okay, there I am. So I'm signed up. You may have seen my name. I don't know if you look at the registration list as they're coming in. And I signed up right away because I was really excited. I've loved listening to the Fifth Brightline calls, and I've gotten a lot out of them. And I signed up for the basic membership because I just wasn't quite sure. There's obviously a cost difference, but also just like how do people typically use, like, it's 2 days a week of availability on Slack or personal, and is it one-to-one availability for sort of those higher Slack levels? And I'm not kind of probably in the level of the video meetings with you yet, but wondering about the Slack situation.
Great questions. I'm just going to close the door because I have a barking dog. One moment. You'll get to know Teddy quite well over these 6 months. He usually is quiet, but he thinks he's a guard dog too. So the Slack availability, the enhanced support is what you're talking about. So if you have questions between group sessions, you can ask them. You send me a DM on Slack, which there's a video. I think there's a Slack demo in your portal already for the new group, which shows you how to do that. And so that's for, you know, if you think about traditional groups or traditional coaching or therapy, you have a session with your coach and you don't have access to them until the next session. And that doesn't work, in my opinion, particularly well in a food related setting where we have multiple things come up throughout from 1 week to the next. And it's also important if we want to bookend, if we want to hold ourselves accountable to whatever, if we're going to an event for the first time, or, you know, a really powerful bookending that Anna and I did was when she went to her first Taylor Swift concert, and there were lots of opportunities to fall off track there. And so that Slack mechanism is built for situations like that.
And there's a group Slack as well that everyone's in, but then the enhanced is like a private channel. Correct. I use Slack usually, but
yes, exactly. So we have a group discussion that everyone's part of, and then you could send private messages to me that are just between that person and myself.
I see. Okay, thanks so much.
You're so welcome. Do we have other questions? Yes, Leslie.
So the group Slack, you could ask the other group members for support in, say, the Taylor Swift concert kind of scenario. We could, yes, like your Marco Polo group or your.
Absolutely. Exactly. And again, that Slack, if you know, some people don't want to be on any groups like online or whatever. Again, that's totally optional, although I strongly advise to participate in that because that's how you get to know people and that's where you can really get the support. I do not coach within the Slack group, like the large group, because it's just not an appropriate setting for coaching. I do provide support in cheerleading as much as possible, but the coaching takes place on a group level in group. On an individual level, that's slightly different, but I don't want anyone to expect like 24/7 coaching on Slack in the group discussion, because that wouldn't be appropriate.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Do we have other questions? Okay, well, I think that we're good. I love and live for this group. I have been really cultivating it over the years. I believe that it is the culmination of so much of my own healing journey and so many failed paths of trying to find relief in certain areas, or the tools that I needed in certain areas, or seeing that my clients weren't getting the full healing and the full results that they deserved based on the offerings of Western psychology alone. And so I've been doing this work for 20 years now, but the past 10 years, I've been an avid student, learning new techniques, learning new approaches. I became certified as a Kundalini yoga and meditation teacher. I studied all kinds of different paths, both in my own healing and knowing also that I would eventually be able to help someone else by learning these things. And so I just couldn't be more proud of the community that we have and the kinds of conversations that we have. And my ultimate and initial goal is always to create the safest possible container for healing. And I feel really good that I can stand behind that. And it's thanks to the people you heard from today who've been part of this. And it's truly a blessing to me to get to be part of your journey in any capacity. And I'm just so grateful to all of you who came here today live, or anyone who's listening. If you have any follow-up questions, please let me know. I hope to see you November 6th. Some of you I'll see next Monday. I love you very much. You are a blessing. And thank you. Much love.